One of my favorite stories is the guy that got busted for child pornography. And then he said, oh, I didn't do that. What happens is when I'm away from home, my cat walks on my keyboard. And I came home and there was... Sounds crazy, I know, but I used to have a parrot that had an online gambling problem, so I feel like that bird lost me a lot of money right there. Okay. I'm very self-deprecating as a comic, so that...
I noticed that, actually, yeah.
I had this sounds like a plug right off the bat. I shot a special called Poor Decisions. Have you seen it?
I have.
Okay. I hated it. But,
oh, really?
But it's as a comic, you hate like watching yourself and hearing things, you know. I think it's fine. I like the material I've written. I liked everything. It was just there was a hurricane hitting. People didn't show up they were supposed to. And it was really, I was producing, so I was kind of out of sorts. And it wasn't my best performance. But I think to everybody else, it's fine, right? And there was a guy I met one time at the show, at the craft service table at the Jim Jefferies Show. And he goes, oh, Forrest. And he was like excited to meet me, which is also blows my mind that anyone would be excited to meet me ever. It's all, you know, just low self-esteem as a comic. And he goes, I saw Poor Decisions. It was great. I go, And he goes, I watched Poor Decisions. I go, it sucked. He goes, I thought it was good. And I go, what am I doing? Like, this guy just like complimented me. I should be more, but so, you know.
Well, just on the feel of the album, it actually, because I've listened to it more than I've watched it once and I've listened to it 4 or 5 times. Yeah. Listening to it, I had that same vibe of The Day the Laughter Died by Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously that album's a legendary album.
It was but the same. That's a comedy store, right?
No, one of Dangerfield's stores in.
I'm sorry.
Clubs in LA, in New York.
30 people, right?
Yeah.
And he was doing arenas at the time.
He was, and he walked into Dangerfield's and done this 3-hour set of improv.
There some people that probably didn't even know him.
They didn't know him.
He was. They were just like, who the fuck's this guy?
Yeah.
Look, there was people that showed up to that recording, some good friends of mine that I've known my whole life. Like, thank God for them. I did some radio the day before, and there were some randoms that showed up from that. So we still had like 39 people, but we were expecting closer to 200.
Yeah.
So we still did it. Yeah.
But you're still happy with the final product, though, overall?
Looks great. My friend that shot and directed and edited it, Clyde, I was going to say the wrong name, Clyde Scott, he did a great job. You know, I think it looks great, and I like the material. It's just my performance, and I think it's fine. My performance, I was like, I could do better than that, you know. Part of my thing is, like, not giving a fuck, and I was giving a fuck.
Yeah,
as
you do.
I was like, where is everybody? There's a hurricane hitting. Wow, this is the day we have to do it. So, yeah.
But you start to overthink it, and then you...
But people like it, and I do like it. I've grown to like it more now. I watch it, I'm like, all right, I'm being too hard on myself, you know.
Leading into the album, did you... Drugs was your...
Oh, comic influence. Yeah, okay.
I mean, because you were a marine biologist for, 10 years or something?
No, long, like almost, like 13, 14, I'm somewhere in that range.
How do you go from being a marine biologist to a stand-up comic?
You know, you don't have any kids, you're not married, you don't have anybody that's depending on you, so then you're going to switch careers from making a good living to, like, shit. You know, so that's number one. Wouldn't be a good switch if you had a whole family and you're like, hey, you know this house we've been living in? I'm going to start doing open mics, so we're going to... living in a pay-by-day hotel. No, I've said this before. I mean, I just didn't want to regret things when I got older that I said I wanted to do. And it was like right around the time my grandfather passed away, and he was one of those people. I was like looking at photos of him. He's just did everything he's wanted to do his whole life. Not wanted to do, but just like, hey, let's try this. So I think if you get 60, 70 years old and you're like, oh yeah, I was thinking of doing that, and then you didn't do it, you'd feel like shit.
And that was something that you thought about doing for a long time.
So I just tried it, and then it was terrible. And then
do you remember your first show?
Yeah. Well, my first show was an open mic at the Miami Improv. So it was a big club, but you had to bring people. And I brought like 75 people.
And how'd it go?
I mean, you know, you bring 75 friends, and they're going to support you, even if it's shit.
How long did you get, like 5 minutes or something?
5 minutes. There was a lot of jokes about, like, my cats. And I do a lot of cat jokes, still, but they're better. Like, originally, it was not good. It was... I had cats, and I was figuring out a way to tell them that they were adopted, and then they were going to start doing drugs. So you get it. Catnip. They were getting nine of their nipples pierced, or 8 of their nipples. 9. What kind of cat is this weird cat? And then the end of the set was like, I thought, because when you start off doing comedy, you watch comics that are big comics, or your influences, like you're saying, or whatever, and so you think you can do that. Like, yeah, I can do that, because part of being a good comic is making it look easy.
Yeah.
So I was trying to reach for things that I couldn't do. So I was like, oh, I've got this great bit where I wake up and then there's this song on the radio, and then I start singing it. I don't even know where the fucking the bit ended, but it was I think it was "Kiss" by Prince. You know, I just need your extra time, and I was singing that song in my first set. I can't sing. That wasn't like a good choice at all. Like I'm just like singing a song by Prince. Yeah, it was just bad. It was bad. But there was like 75 of my friends like, it was great. Yeah, this was good. But, you know, the bar set so low because nobody thought that was going to...
Did that make it easier for your second show, though, to grow the balls to go, you know what, fuck it, I'll do that second show now?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's addictive. You get off stage and you're like, oh, it's like doing a drug.
Yeah.
You're like, we're going to do this again, you know?
And
then you do, and then, you know, and then you regret it. You regret it for about solid 3 to 5 years. And then you're like, well, okay, I'm getting better. Now I can do this. Don't do comedy, everybody. That's what all comics say. Don't do it. It is tough. It's tough. I've been able to tour with Jim Jefferies and do these venues. The first couple times when you do these big venues was very, intimidating. But then you kind of get used to it, and I kind of follow his lead. You know, where it's just like he takes a lot of risks. You know, we'll just be in the car and he'll be like, I just thought of this funny thing. I'll do it tonight in front of 3,000 people. I was like, really? You would, you know, I would want to do that like in some bar where no one would see, you know. So at the beginning of this tour, I've written a couple jokes just for this, not for this tour, but at the beginning of this tour, and just kind of been working my way.
And do you find that touring around with other comics that the writing comes a bit easier or flows a bit smoother? Yeah, because you have downtime when you're traveling. And it sucks traveling. I mean, you know, I know it's great to visit places, but flying and driving and all stuff. So you got to pass the time. So you're just like saying stuff, and you know, 95% of the stuff you say when you're traveling is just like, that was funny now. But then once in a while, that's a good bit. You should try it on stage, blah blah blah. And then you try it, and if it's good, you're like, yeah, good idea. And if it doesn't, you're like, hey, what the fuck did you tell me to do that for? It'd be fun to watch you panic. Do you need to adjust your material much for a bigger room to a smaller room?
Not your material, but a little bit of your style, like on a bigger venue. This is my opinion. You should move around a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like I don't move around a lot if I'm in a club, but when you're in front of like thousands of people, if you just kind of stand still and you're not like kind of, at least maybe your volume, sometimes I'll get a little bit louder and be a little bit bigger. Like maybe I'll do a couple of these things. I don't normally do, like, I'll tell you, you know, so. Because then it's like, you're going to be on some screen and stuff too, but I feel like you need to play a little bit bigger. And you can't just like look down at the front row. Like in a club, you can just kind of play here. And then in a theater or an arena, you got to be like this, you know. I'm still not, I wouldn't say I'm not great at it.
Yeah.
You know, like I was with Jim and the big shows I do is with Jim, you know, and we were in Israel and we were in the round, the only time I've been in the round. So I don't know if people, you're right in the center and all the crowd's around you.
Wow.
These are lingo. But, I'd never done that. I didn't know what to do, and I literally just stood in place and was spinning around in a circle, telling my jokes.
Wow.
I was like, what the fuck? Then it dawned on me, I was like, this isn't right. I shouldn't just be spinning constantly in a circle in place. And so I started walking to the corners of the stage, like, oh, here's what you do, and then you stop, and then you... So, but, yeah, it's... we were in Perth, and there's another comedian, Craig Quartermain. Do you know him?
No.
He's Australian, very funny, and it was... biggest, it was like 12,000 people, biggest crowd. He's done biggest crowd. I mean, personally, I've done too, but I've done that arena already with Jim, and he crushed. He had a great set. He was right in front of me, and then I got off stage, and then he was there with his wife, kind of looking at the crowd at the end, and it's like sometimes you need to be reminded that you kind of step out, you're like, oh yeah, this is really cool, and then also like scary for a second, like, ah shit, there's that many people. You know, I remember when a massage just meant you were going to get, you know, your back worked on, and now you got to specify that, right? That's a tough job, massage therapy. That's the only job where you have to tell somebody whether they're getting jerked off at the end or not. You know, you never be getting your taxes done. Like, this is all about deductions. Just, you know, there's no hand jobs at the end of this, right?
It must be awesome to be able to make a living off of something like this.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I don't know why. I don't get it. Number one, I'm going to think about my jokes leading up to Tonight Show, and then I'll just be like, I don't know if anyone's going to laugh at that, even though people have laughed at it before.
So 2 albums deep, and you know, you're on a tour, and you still second guess yourself sometimes before the show.
I don't know why anybody laughs at anything.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? Like, if you really start thinking about it, like, it'll fuck your head up when you're coming to, you're like, that's what, like, people, and then you're like, I write the joke down, I'm like, that's what people are, and then you say it, and people laugh, and you're like, right.
So people laughed at fucked up shit. Like people laugh at some crazy shit.
Yeah,
Like,
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
Half
find
my material is about my dead cat right now, so that's kind of fucked up. Yeah. Yeah. Like
So 8 minutes.
We have one audience member. But you can't laugh. You're ruining the whole thing, Claire. It's not supposed to be funny at all. There's no laughing. See, why are you guys laughing? Why is this even funny? Why is any of this funny? It's not. No. So
there's awkwardness and uncomfortability.
It wasn't funny. None of it's just funny. At least some fucking blogger fuckhead. Like thumbs down.
But you played a pretty big music festival recently, right? The Cal Jam or the
Cal Jam. Yeah. Yeah.
How was that?
It was great. I was not on the same stage as the Foo
No, of
Fighters.
course.
Yeah. We were in a tent in the campgrounds. Yeah. But it's still fun. It was. So there's a comic that I know back from Florida where I started, Tim Hanlon, and he's doing this tour called, it's like Fresh, Drunk, Stoned, I think. And they're touring the whole country. They're doing great. It's him and two other comics from Florida. I don't know why my voice just cracked there. And he's related to Dave Grohl.
Oh, okay.
And so he kind of pitched it to him and was like, hey, maybe should do. I don't know if he pitched it to him. Like, hey, so I just talked to this guy. But we had a show at midnight and then one in the morning, 10 in the morning, in a tent and where everyone was camping and stuff. And so it was cool. It was very cool to be there. And but they weren't there for us.
No.
They were just kind of like, what the fuck's going on over here? Like,
would have been a cool experience though, right?
Great.
Yeah.
It was great. I've never seen the Foo Fighters live. They're amazing. And if for music people out there, so they had this tent where they had a documentary about Joan Jett. And it was this really cool documentary, and they everyone made a point like, well, Joan Jett's not here, so blah blah blah, which was like, yeah, Joan Jett's totally here, and then we had like all access wristbands. We were artists, so we went into this like kind of artist village and stuff, and then found out she was there, and then found out what the encore was going to be. So what happened is they played every hit, which they have a lot of hits, Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
When you start watching them, you're like, wow, that's their song. You're like, oh yeah, that is their song. Amazing live band. They'll improv and go back in the song. Obviously, the drummer Taylor Hawkins is amazing. The whole band's great, and so they went off stage, but they had already played all their hits, and so they're showing the camera Dave Grohl backstage and everyone, and then they showed Joan Jett, and everyone's like, ah. And then they showed the bassist from Nirvana, Novoselic.
Chris Novoselic,
yeah, because his band was there too at the festival,
yeah, and
they're like, and they're like, and Pat Smear's already there, who was in the acoustic. So they came out. Dave Grohl got on drums, Pat Smear guitar, Novoselic bass. And then the lead singer of this band, Deer Tick, who he's a blonde guy, kind of sounds like Kurt Cobain. They did 3 Nirvana songs. Wow. Then Joan Jett came out and they did 4 more Nirvana songs. So they did like a half an hour Nirvana songs, which I've been told they never did. She did Smells Like Teen Spirit, played the lead guitar and sang, and she's got that raspy voice, and she's like a all-time rock star. That's huge. And it was amazing. So just seeing that was like a really cool thing where you're just like, and I talked to them, they're like, no, they've never done that. They've never. So they did like a half hour, and you could tell it was emotional for Dave Grohl, and it was really cool. So that was a really cool thing. Comedy though, we just in a little tent there. That was all. We told them. I'll tell you the funny. I got on stage, and it was supposed to be me, this other comic, Jerry Rocha, very funny, and then Tim Hanlon, who's related to Dave Grohl, and Dave Grohl was riding around in this golf cart, and he pulled up with his kids at first, and I was telling them terrible jokes that kids should not hear, and they came into the tent, and I was like, ugh. And then they ushered the kids away, and then Dave Grohl just came back and lied on a blanket in the tent when I was telling my jokes. And I'm like, that's cool. Dave Grohl's right there in a blanket in the tent. And then the thing was, everybody just was like, oh shit, there's Dave Grohl. So my set was kind of, by the end it was just kind of like, Dave Grohl's on a blanket over there. Like, I'm not getting a lot of hits on these jokes there. And then I got handed a note, and they're like, oh, Tim's going to go next because he wanted to see his cousin go up. And so he did, and great set. And then Dave Grohl got up and literally left, and everyone was like, Dave Grohl's leaving. And then Jerry had to go up and close the show, and it's like, well, this sucks. It was like this little swarm of like bugs just leaving. And so, but I did perform Dave Grohl, and
oh, that's awesome.
That's about it. I don't know how that helps my life.
I thought it
doesn't really.
It's a cool story, though.
He would never remember me. I'd have to explain it to him. I was the guy that... Well, I hope God doesn't exist, though. Seriously, I'm a compulsive gambler. I made a lot of deals with God, and I didn't hold up my end of the bargain at all. I'd just be like, please, God, let me win this bet. I'll never gamble again. Then I'd win it, and I'd be like, bah, I never got a confirmation email, so I'm going to assume that one hit the firewall. Very tech-savvy God in my jokes. He's a computer programmer.
Yeah. How did you get involved with Jim Jefferies, for starters? You worked on Legit for a bit, is that right?
I did a couple episodes, very briefly I was on there. I met him. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you honestly. Like there's a friend of ours, Al Jackson, who's a comedian, and he called me one day because I'm doing warm up for this HBO special, and I go, who? And he goes, Jim Jefferies. And at the time, he was big in England, but not in the States. He did a thing on HBO's Down and Dirty, Jim Norton's Down and Dirty, and then the HBO people are like, this is great, we're going to do an hour special with you. But no one knew him in the States. So, of course, being this comic, and always jealous people, especially when you're starting out and you think you're better than everybody, I go, who the fuck's Jim Jefferies? Why does he have an HBO special? And I was like, I don't know. He called me from in between the two tapings, and he goes, yeah, this guy's, like, really good. Like, I didn't, we didn't know him in the States, but, he's a killer. And then a week or 2 weeks later, I was just working with him at a club randomly, and then for the next month, I worked with him, like, in weekends. I show up to the club, and I'm like, yeah, it's Jim Jefferies again. I was like, I'm just working with him every week, and we just became friends, and we have a lot in common, even though we have different personalities overall. Like, we have a lot of stuff in common, and we found out we liked, that's half the thing, like, being on the road is hanging with someone, and anytime I come to the Southeast United States, he'd call me up, hey, we're going to work here, here, and here, and then I'd go to LA, he'd tell me to stay at his house, and it just we just became friends, and it's like, in this industry, it's like you just gravitate towards people and your friends, and eventually, by the time I moved to LA, we're very close, and he goes, I remember he told me, he goes, I can get you just an extra part in the first season, legit, or if we get a second season, I can write a line in for you, and you get on there. And I was like, I'll stay for the second season. We got a second season, and I got into 2 episodes. And most of my lines got cut, but I'm in there. There's me with a bag of cocaine. That was a big laugh. I was like, oh, yeah. But, and
you guys still work together today on the Jim Jefferies Show?
Yeah. And so, and I don't know if I have to over-explain it, but I'm writing on the show now, but I didn't just get that job because I knew Jim. Basically, he got the show, and there was a small writing team and group of people that started the show, and I wanted to work on the show no matter what, but I'd never written on anything. So I kind of just hung out there, helped in any way I could with the pilot, met the showrunner, other EPs and stuff, and just kind of they were like, oh, you want to do this thing in the pilot? And I was like on screen in the pilot. You want to help with this? And people liked me that worked on the show. And so I got to work in the digital department the first year and just write copy and write jokes and stuff like that. And then, people at Comedy Central and on the show, and people liked me and thought I would be valuable to be in the writing room, so offered me the job. So I just like to say that because I feel like everybody in the world's like, yeah, he's friends with Jim Jefferies and you get a writing job. It's not how LA works. It's like, you're not just like, and my friends all get jobs, but so I wrote on the second season 30 episodes, and then we have the third season coming up, so. They wanted us to do a podcast, and
whose idea was that, the podcast?
It was Comedy Central's.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it as like a what I'm trying to say, like an extra
companion.
Companion. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Companion piece to the show, and they figured, hey, we'll have Forrest. He's very close with Jim. Not that I can't control him, but at least I can steer the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not always like, yes, that's a great idea to everything. I think that's part of, and then we usually have, almost always, sometimes we're on the road, we have a guest on, a comic, most of the time. We did have Dr. Drew on, and we had Kevin Ryder from Kevin and Bean, but most of the time it's a comic. And
you're getting some pretty cool people on that podcast by the sounds of it. Is there any guest that sort of stuck out as a most interesting or more interesting than others?
It was cool to meet Dr. Drew because I know most of the comics. Most of the comics I worked with I knew or something. So I like a lot of them. But some of the people I had never met. But Kelly, who's the producer of the podcast, she's gotten a lot of the guests too. I didn't know some of the comics too. So
now you got a big show tonight, so I won't keep you much longer. How do you prepare for a show?
Wow. Deja vu. A shower.
Stitch up.
A shower, so you don't smell. I don't know why I do that. Who gives a fuck? No one can see.
No one can smell you from the stage.
It was good, but you smell like shit. I guess.
It was a funny show, but we could smell him from the third row.
I don't do much anymore. I'm very dead inside. So I just go up there and this doesn't matter.
So you got no rituals or anything before a gig?
Not at all. No. And I appreciate it because people always come up to me like, oh, do you want to be left alone? Do you want to do this? I'm like, I don't care. You can talk to me. I mean, if you have nerves, it's good to talk to someone. If you have nerves and you're just alone, you're just like, ah. And then I start thinking about that thing we talked about, like, why is someone's going to laugh at that? I'm like, not much. I just kind of you a little bit of time, like maybe 5 minutes before you just kind of stay within your own thoughts, kind of plan out what you're going to do,
Yeah.
But not much to it.
Oh, one thing I would not ask you, 'cause you are a bit of a sports guy.
Yeah, I like sports.
Yeah. Yesterday you kicked a NRL ball through a set of sticks on the
15 meters. I know it's 20, right?
What is? You a place kick. You kicked it from the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're shooting a field piece for the show, and we were at a rugby league. We were at the West Tigers, and we were out there with a player, Farah. Yeah,
Robbie Farah.
Robbie Farah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
God, I wish I would have gotten it right away, so it looked like I knew what I was talking about. And Robbie Farah, and they had a ball out there, and I just went to touch it because it thought it was smooth, but it's like very tactile, you know. And then he goes, "You know how to throw a rugby ball?" But I thought, he's like, "Do you know how to throw a ball?" I go, "Yeah." So I threw it like American football, and I didn't even throw it good. I was like, and he went to Robbie. And he goes, "No, like this," and he goes, and like spun it like hard. Luckily I was ready for it, but it still was like, you know. And then try a kick, and it was wet. The field was wet, and they were filming stuff for the show, but they turned it on me. If you watch our show or you follow our podcast, there's a famous game of horse that Jim beat me at, which is a basketball game. You got to match shots. I'm way better at basketball than Jim, and it's bullshit. All right, I did lose that one. I lost it fair and square, but it's insane. So
with his underhand.
Yeah. But
underarm.
I practiced that now, and I've beaten him. But of course, they didn't film that. I started practicing the underhand thing, and then I beat him with underhand shots. Not filmed, not anywhere to be seen. And then, so in my mind, Jack Hackett was there. If people know, and he's shooting it, and I was like, I tested it with my sneakers. I'm like, this is very slippery. I was like, number one priority, do not fall, because they're filming me. Because if I fall and miss it, that's on our show's page forever. Like the horse game's pinned at the. So I was like, all right, keep your footing. And then Robbie gave me a tip. He goes, kick it like on the side, kind of like soccer, where you kick a field goal in American football. And so I ran up and I did it, but I did it at 15 meters. I know 20 meters is the distance. It just happened to be there. And if I was at 20 meters, I might have missed it because it started to go towards the right, upright, and it got inside.
Did you come around the corner?
Did
you, when you lined up the ball, did you come around?
No, straight on.
Straight on?
Yeah. On my first time kicking a freaking rugby ball.
Well, how do they kick it in America?
At the angle. I know how it works. Wherever you land in the zone, in the end zone, wherever you go, you got to kick at that angle. That's why you run to the side. I've understood the rules. But my first one was dead on.
Have you seen much rugby league?
Yeah. I went, the first time I was not here on Anzac Day, and I went and saw
St. George
Roosters Dragons.
Yeah.
And they did the whole thing. People parachuted in. Big thing.
It's a big day that day for...
Jim's Australian manager, Andrew Taylor's a big Dragons fan. Wow, I hope I got that right.
Yeah, St. George Dragons, they're my second team.
He's Dragons fan. I have a scarf, and it's like, it's funny because I'm like, I follow rugby league, but it's like any sport. And I was like, what team do you follow again? And I said it to him, and he said, Dragons. It was like, it's Dragons. I really hope it's Dragons. I have a scarf.
They get crazy here if you get it wrong.
Yeah.
The name of the team.
I do like it, though. It's intense. There's no downtime. For Americans that are like, new sports and stuff, you watch some rugby league, there's no... In American football, there's a lot of downtime, and you have time to get your breath and whatever. In rugby league, it's like brutal.
So I'm a big fan of hockey, ice hockey, and it reminds me of rugby league, which is why it's constant and it's hard. A lot of fights. There used to be a lot of fights in rugby league, not anymore. But it's a tough, fast game.
Very tough. They have pads in hockey though, but they're going 5 times the speed.
Anyway, look, thank you so much for hanging around and chatting with us about football and whatever else. I am. I feel I'm stoked. Yeah. Is there what else is coming up though on the tour before you guys head back home?
I'll be back here in Australia. Gosh, I wish I knew the dates. I'm going to be in Sydney at the Comedy Store and the Amore Comedy Club between February 18th and February 24th, I believe are the dates. They're on my website, forrestshaw.net, and I'm going to be at the Melbourne, the Comedy Lounge. I believe it's February 25th through March 1st. It's that Wednesday through Saturday. It's all on forrestshaw.net, and it's on the Comedy Lounge website. And then I'm gonna swing over to Adelaide for a little bit. The Fringe is going on. I don't know what shows I'm doing there. Emma's gonna help me.
Cool. Well, when you come back, we might come and have a catch up then as well.
Yeah. And is this coming out before then?
This will be out before then, yeah.
Okay, good. I should have asked that first before I was like, and these dates that already happened. And then if you're gonna be, and I'm going on this tour with it in Asia with Jim. So if you're in Asia, come out. All of Asia.
Awesome.
In Asia, Taiwan. I don't know why I'm even promoting that. It's fucking Jim store. They're gonna sell out. Don't even worry about it.
Asia hasn't heard of Nightrain TV, I don't think.
Yeah. What am I doing? It's fucking Newcastle. We at the Newcastle, the oldest pub in Newcastle.
Queen's Arms.
Yeah.
Queen's Arms
Is that what
Hotel.
it's called?
No, that was my grandparents' old pub in Maitland, just north of Newcastle.
I was just trying to give him a plug.
No, they've been dead for about 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I had to bring that one up.
On that note, let's just end the interview.
Anyway.
Let's all go around the room. Say something sad.
My dad left when I was very young. Forrest, thank you so much
Cat
for...
died 2 weeks ago. So...
How about you guys? How are you guys feeling?
I love you. All right.
Forrest Shaw, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it. I'm sweating in your room.
Yeah.
Take it easy. We'll see you tonight.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people care that athletes do steroids. Who gives a shit, right? It's entertainment. All of our entertainers should be on drugs. You know? You wouldn't listen to music made by people that weren't on drugs. Why would you watch sports? Right? I want them to be as big and strong as possible. You know, I don't want to go back and watch football when they had leather helmets on, everyone weighed 150 pounds, and they gently shoved each other out of bounds, you know? I want to see some roided up linebacker hit a guy so hard his spleen shoots out of his ass, you know, just flies into some kid's lap. I hope he signs this. He's a Pro Bowler. I'm going to sell that on eBay later.